recorded.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special event that we're doing today. We are so lucky to have a group of college students or soon-to-be college students or recent college grads to share with us their experience of college after epilepsy surgery. I'm Audrey Vernick. I'm the Director of Patient and Family Advocacy for the Brain Recovery Project Childhood Epilepsy Surgery Foundation. And I'm really thrilled to have this group of panelists here today. I'm going to let them introduce themselves before we get started with our Q&A. Go ahead, Bennett.
Hi, I'm Bennett. I live in San Francisco, and I will be going to college in the fall at Cal State East Bay.
And how old are you, and what was your surgery?
And I am 18, and I had a left hemispherectomy.
All right.
Hi, I'm Camden. I am 18 years old. I live in upstate New York. I go to Tompkins Cortland Community College. I am studying to get my MSW, which is a master's in social work. I started having seizures when I was 7 years old, and I had a hemispherectomy when I was 9.
Welcome. All right, Hannah.
Hi, my name is Hannah Webb. I'm 19 years old. I live in Atlanta, but go to college in Charleston. My career, I would say, would be somewhere in the hospitality. And I was born with seizures and had my hemispherectomy at 2.5 months.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Caitlin O'Connor. I live in San Carlos, California. However, I attend college at Pitzer College, which is in Claremont, California. I hope to one day work in a hospital setting, so I am currently majoring in psychology, and my seizures began when I was 12 years old, and I had a hemispherectomy also at 12 years old.
Hi, my name's Rasheen. I'm 23 years old. I live in Southern California. I went to university at Hofstra University in New York on Long Island. My career goal is to be a doctor. I majored in neuroscience with minors in biology and biochemistry. I just graduated this last May. And my seizure onset was I was born with seizures. However, I had my right temporal lobectomy at the age of 14.
All right, great. Wow, great group. I'm really excited to have you all here. Thank you for doing this. So let's start with what inspired you to pursue college. And Camden, I think you had something to share on that.
Yeah, so when I graduated high school, my parents are well educated, and there wasn't really an option for me not to go to college. So once I got to college, it was really just figuring out what I wanted to do in my career path to help others throughout. So now that I know social work and making the best impact on the world around me.
All right. Anyone else have any thoughts about why you ended up in college, how you ended up in college? Okay.
I can share a little bit.
Sure.
I've kind of always known I've wanted to go to college. Like having the surgery at 12, I kind of had been put on, I knew that was my path. So after my surgery, I just continued to work hard, try my best to get good grades, and just persevere through high school. And ultimately, I ended up at college.
Great. How did you decide what college to attend? Like choosing between large and small schools, what type of program, a city versus a more remote school? I think Hannah, you might have had something to share there.
Yes, so I knew towards the end of high school that I wanted to have a college experience, but knew that I would need some support. And so when we were looking at colleges and programs for me, I had to choose between Horizon and the REACH program. And Horizon's not really a college, but would help with independence. But REACH was very supportive and so far going very well.
Excellent. So my understanding about that program is it's a program in a college setting that offers a lot of supports for students with disabilities. So you're at college, but you're in a group with other kids that also have support needs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And so just as part of it, you you have two traditional classes and then a reach class with all of the people in the program, which is
Excellent.
10 each.
Sounds great. Bennett, did you want to talk about how you made your college choice?
Yes. So for me, since there weren't a lot of schools in the Bay Area that have a program that would meet my needs, I chose Cal State East Bay, California State University East Bay in Hayward, California, that had a lot of accessible services, and I connected with people that can help me there over the summer and in the spring of my senior year at my high school. And yeah, a lot of good supports around the school, and it's in a great location.
You wanted to stay in an urban environment?
Yeah, it's in the urban environment since I don't drive, so it's near public transit, so I can get around easily.
Great.
So.
Let's talk a little bit about the difference between high school and college. Camden, I think you were going to talk about that one.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the biggest differences that I've noticed between high school and college is during high school, everyone is holding your hand and babying you through getting your schoolwork done, going to class on time. And in college, it's a completely different environment. You have to take the responsibility to go to class on time, to wake up early in the morning, to get your homework done without anybody pushing you to do those tasks that need to be done for you to be successful.
And is it overwhelming? I'm going to follow up on this a little bit. Just like, do you feel like you're able to do it? Is it just like recognizing the difference and you're still able to do it? Or are you feeling like you need more support to do it independently?
Well, after my first year, I would say I've pretty much grasped how to create a schedule for myself to be successful in completing all my assignments. So really, it's just planning out what you need to do for the week. That could be starting on Sunday or Monday, and then creating small steps for you to complete what you need to get done that week.
I was explaining to Bennett, who's my son, who's here today, that every Sunday I sit down, I have my planner, right? My actual book, even though I do everything digitally. And every Sunday I sit down with it and write out my week. And it's something I've continued into adulthood because this is kind of how we have to live our lives. And you're right, when high school, there's a lot more hand holding and it's like, this is just set up. But once you're in college and adult life, you have to do it on your own. So I know a lot of universities, a lot of community colleges, college programs, universities offer disability supports or different kind of support services. Caitlin, can you talk a little bit about the disability supports that are available to you and how you access them?
So I go to a smaller liberal arts college, which I purposefully picked because I wanted the smaller setting and more individualized attention. I didn't want to be one of 400 in a class, so that also translate out into the disability supports, I would say. I would regarding disability supports, I would say be your own advocate. I find the Office of Student Affairs is very helpful when I reach out to them saying, oh, I have these accommodations I would like to have help informing my professors of. They're very good about helping make the initial connection, but it's on me to follow up and make sure professors are in fact accommodating, giving me my extensions or my double time. And I find it's very important to just follow up and make sure that you let them know what accommodations you need. I mostly use extended time and extensions. And if a classroom's like way off campus, they will move the classroom to actually be on campus for me. So I don't have to walk like a 1.5 mile round trip which could totally mess up my schedule for the rest of the day, but which is really helpful. They've been able to accommodate me a couple times now for that.
That's great. So do you just go into the Disabled Student Services office or whatnot and say this class is going to be too far for me to walk? Can it be moved, or are they proactive about it?
That's the one thing I found a little frustrating. Like I have made this known multiple times that I can't take a class. It's like an off-campus thing. It's like, about a mile and a half away. I've let them know that it's not a possibility for me, yet they've had my classrooms placed there both semesters, and it's kind of been a last minute scramble where on my part, I've had to do a lot of self-advocacy and email my professor and email the head of accommodations, but I'm hoping they've kind of received the message now and know to not do that anymore.
That's one of the things I've heard, is that does require ongoing advocacy. I'm sure others are going to speak to this, but Roisin, why don't you talk about the accommodations you use, and is it challenging to get the accommodations? I guess you, since you're a recent graduate, congratulations.
Thank you. So I would say regularly extended time, just because test taking, like you want to have that extended time. That was the one that I mostly use. But then some of the other ones I use, like, because epilepsy is unpredictable, you can't like predict when you're going to have a seizure. So I'd say attendance modifications are really essential, just so then if you do have a seizure and you can't make it to class, you won't be penalized for that. Because I know for me, like if I had a seizure while I was sleeping, like classes the next day was not going to happen, or an exam like the next day was just not going to be feasible. So I'd say the extended time and then also attendance modifications are really the ones that I use, just so then I was able to get to class when needed. And if I couldn't, I would not be penalized for not like making it to class.
Were the professors always aware of what your accommodations were and handing them to you, or did you have to kind of educate each individual professor about what your accommodations were?
So at my university, how they did it was on the first day of classes, we each got letters for each of my professors. They would give like a physical letter and we'd hand them out to them. And then from there, I would have to inform them, like, these are my accommodations, this is why. And it was ongoing, I would say, advocacy for myself, just because some departments do have certain things set up where if you're sick, you can't do a makeup exam. Like there are those rules in college. And it's also having the disabilities department to back you. So then you can modify those rules, just because obviously, like if you have a seizure the same day of the exam, you don't want to go in and take an exam when sick. So it's finding that balance between your accommodations and also like modifying what maybe rules that the school has in place already.
Okay. And what about assistive technology? Can you speak to a little bit of what assistive technology you use in college? What have you found helpful?
I used two main assistive technologies. One was Voice Dream, which is like it reads our books. So my school would give me a PDF version of the book and it would read it out loud for me, just because that was very helpful, just because I remember things better when hearing it than actually like physically reading, where you can kind of like skim through and not actually retain what you're reading. So I use that, and I also use something called Audio Note Taker, which was super helpful because it gave my professors lecture slides and then the notes I took and then the audio recording for each slide. So it'd sync all three of those up together. So then I would have like the slides, my own text from typing notes, and then the audio, and I could go back and re-listen to the audio. So I found those assistive technology things were very helpful and just helping me also remember everything, or even video recording the class. I know some professors would allow me to videotape their classes, just so then I could go back and re-listen.
That's great. Does anyone else want to talk about assistive technology or accommodations?
I would like chime in and say I want to take advantage of stuff like audio note takers, but I will find in some university settings, professors are very like protective of their lectures because it's like their thoughts and essentially like their material, because a lot of professors do teach the books they write, and I have found it hard to get accommodations like that in college, just because professors are very protective of what they say and all that, because they don't want stuff taken out of context.
Have you tried like using a peer note taker or another method?
I do have the accommodation of where if I want, they will pay someone in the class to take notes and share with me. I have not taken advantage of it yet because I've had friends in classes who will share with me if I'm absent or anything. I would definitely like making friends in your classes, definitely like the person you sit next to, even if you miss a day, it's super helpful just to be like, oh, can you send me the notes from the lecture?
Yeah, great. And Hannah, did you want to add something about accommodations and assistive technology?
Yeah, I was just when Rosie mentioned the letter, that's how they did it too. With the letter, and you would send it to your professor anytime you would need it, you would think. So I also but before that, I know it was like it was a little bit of a process to get those accommodations. But we have coordinators that helped us with that.
Mhm.
But it takes like a good like month or so to get it fully processed because it has to go through the disability process and all that.
I mean, one thing, it's sort of like a life lesson that when you need something, you have to continually advocate it throughout your life. I'm sure you all know this. You are all warriors here, right? But that it's nothing, getting it one time doesn't mean anyone's even going to remember, right? Like you're saying, Caitlin, I hope they remember that I can't walk that 1.5 miles. I'm not going to hold my breath that they're going to remember, but that's the rest of your life. You're going to have to continue to advocate for yourself. So it's a good skill. For those of you who still have active epilepsy, what extra considerations are required? And Roisin, you touched on this a little bit about like if you had a seizure, you might not be able to go to class the next day. Can you share anything else around that?
I would say setting up your classes around your epilepsy, not allowing it to dictate your life. But for example, like I only took 12 credits per semester just because I was a science major, and science classes, like you have 4-hour labs, you have lots of homework plus studying. And I know for me, like sleep deprivation, seizure, dehydration, seizure. So trying to like base your, I want to say your class schedule around it to where you are kind of helping reduce your seizure chance, such as don't feel inclined like you have to take like 16 or 18 credits just because other people are. Like do it around what's best for you and your epilepsy, just because I use that to help gauge, and it really was best for my grades. Just because not trying to put like, do it at your own pace. Don't try to do it at someone else's pace, college.
Okay. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but the next question is about like, how well do you think your college supports your health and disability needs, and how much self-advocacy do you need to access those supports? So Ken, and I think you had something to share on that one.
Yeah, I would say that when you need to make decisions for yourself, it's definitely important to reach out to the people that are willing to help you. So whether that's reaching out to your disability advisor, or if that's reaching out to your professor, so they can take the next step for you to be the most successful in school. And if those people can't help you in the correct way that you need, then you need to go to the next higher up person in order for you to be the most successful throughout your school career.
Yeah, so you kind of have to be the squeaky wheel sometimes.
Yes.
Caitlin, do you have anything to add on that? I know you touched on the self-advocacy a little bit, but is there anything else?
I would find like once I have the accommodations, that like that's a big hurdle to jump over, and to just get the full list of extended time and like double test taking. But once I have those, and having an initial meeting with your professor saying these are my accommodations, they are much more likely to remember 2 months from now when you ask them for an extension that you in fact have those accommodations. And I find them far more likely to say yes. But I've also seen during COVID, professors are a lot more forgiving and accommodating just to everybody, regardless of if you have accommodations, which I suppose has almost made it easier a bit to make sure the things I need are in fact given to me.
Okay, great. Bennett, you were going to talk about what preparation you received in college to help before college, on how to manage your health and your disability support needs after high school, like in college or later in life.
Yes.
You want to talk about who provided training and support for you, what they did?
Yeah, so I got support from some people at independent living services as part of a program that trained me in like how to manage my life outside of school and in school a little bit. And then also I got training from someone at Accessible Services named Annie, who helped me in finding, I don't exactly remember what she did, but yeah.
I think one of the things she did that you were going to talk about was scripts. So like getting scripts for different scenarios. So how do you talk to somebody, different people in college, like your college roommate, hey, I have a shunt, your professor, we just talked a lot about those accommodations, but it might also be, does your RA need to know your medical history and how much do you disclose? This can be a
Yeah.
really big question as you enter adulthood. It's like, do you want people to know about your disability? I mean, it might not be central to who you are in a way that it's like, this is the first thing I want to talk about is my disability, right? But then there's also
Yeah.
like safety needs where you have to let other people know what's going on. So that can be an important piece. And
Yeah.
Caitlin, I think you talked a little bit about, you were going to talk a little bit about what you did before college to prepare for these kind of health and disability support needs in college. Do you have anything to add, or anyone, any of you?
Do you mean just like basic, just like the preparation throughout college throughout high school in order to get to college, kind
Not
of?
about going to college so much as about like, how are you going to advocate for yourself in terms of, excuse me, your health and safety, your health?
I kind of found like just being very upfront and honest that this disability is very much a prominent aspect of my life. And I was like, first day, I was very not even first day, maybe a couple days after orientation, I had a meeting with my RA. I told her this is the case. I might need some help with XYZ things. And she was very reciprocative. I think that's the proper word. She was very much like, I could totally help you with anything you need. And I found even in friendships, just being upfront that I have these challenges and letting people know early on, they are more likely to be empathetic and like willing to help me out.
Okay, great. Well, that's a good segue into friendships, because Hannah, I wanted to ask you about social connections. What's helped you build and nurture friendships, and have you been able to make good social connections in college, in your college program?
I say definitely. So for the first year, you everyone's together in the program,
Mhm.
so we're in the same dorm. And so I got to know them very well, and also you also had mentors you had to meet or try to meet once a week, like 3 of them. And then another thing that just generally helps is if you go to clubs
Mhm.
and you meet new
Right.
people, and they're all nice. Most of them are.
That's great. Does anyone else want to add on that about social friendships?
I guess I could add a little bit. I would say like early on in the semester is not like, I would say is a crucial time to make friends because everybody is still like getting to know one another, but it's also not like the end of the world if you don't come out of like first semester with your core friend group. Like I was still meeting people into second semester and it's just like like don't worry about making friends. I know that can perhaps be the biggest stressor. One of my big stressors going to college was, oh, I took a gap year, I'm going to be way older than everybody else, is anyone really going to want to be my friend? But people are way nicer than you make them out to be in your head. And I would like to probably reiterate that just being upfront about challenges that you might have because of your disability is is a good call. I didn't have a roommate, but I know if I did have a roommate, I would say I had the hemispherectomy, I have some left-sided weakness, I still struggle with migraines, and I would just I would let people know I have these challenges. Don't be shocked if I don't come to dinner one day because I have a headache, or
Mhm.
just letting people know.
Mhm.
So because like I found migraines can't prevent me from doing stuff. I wouldn't want my friends to think I'm blowing them off because that's not
Mhm.
something I would do.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people deal with headaches and migraines, adults who had epilepsy in childhood, not even surgery. So that's a really important point. Anyone else want to comment on that, or should we move on to the next question?
I can
I
comment
can.
on that just because
Okay.
I think it's so essential in a way to also, for me, like it was essential to find people who would also understand.
Mhm.
Because like I was a peer mentor for my disabilities department at my university, and I found that being around people who not even had epilepsy but other disabilities, it's nice having that sense of community of people who can understand like why like you might not show up to dinner, why you might be sick and need to cancel plans last minute. So I know for me that was very helpful also because I got to meet my roommate who was a type 1 diabetic. So it was nice having someone who understands like you have something that you physically can't control, and that like your health, you kind of have to not dictate your life around your health but modify it around your health.
Mhm.
So I'd say look into socializing into like your disabilities department and finding people who might also have accommodations or an IEP or whatever it may be.
That's great advice.
I was going to say that definitely when you go to college, making friends is one of your biggest assets. I took my first semester online, so I wasn't really able to get out and meet new people and make friends. But my second semester, during my orientation, I met one of my best friends from college, and we hung out pretty much every single day during the years. We'd stay up way later than we should have on nights when we had classes at 9 a.m., just hanging out, doing stuff with other people. One of the biggest things about making friends at college is being open to other people's ideas and thoughts, because your ideas and normal routine is completely different than somebody else's. So just being understanding, and them also being able to understand where you come from and having that mutual respect for each other with your struggles.
Excellent. Let's talk a little bit about career path and what supports and services, because college is just a stepping stone to get you onto what's next. So does anyone want to talk about this? What supports have been put in place to help you achieve your goal? Caitlin, go ahead.
So like I mentioned earlier, I'm a psychology major, and I actually just declared, and I've made a really good connection with one of the faculty at our school who's going to be my advisor. And I've just found that networking within your major is super helpful. Like I also just got into his lab to do some clinical psychology research, which I know is going to be really fun, but also really good for my resume. And then also just networking in clubs you're interested in. Like I'm now on the executive board of a club that helps fundraise for hospitals, and the people higher up have offered to help me make connections within that hospital for things I'm interested in. And just being an active member in your school community can really help you with figuring out what you want to major in and making connections that could help you after college.
That's great. Anyone else want to talk about any services to help you or supports for career?
Yeah. So on your second semester of college, you have an internship. So you'll start off on campus, and then the rest will be off campus, but will go based on what you're thinking of doing as your area of concentration, as they call it. And so we have a career coordinator who helps out with that, and will put you in internships that you think that will fit good for you.
Yeah, that program sounds like it really does focus on that, like making sure you get both the college experience and some career training.
Yeah, it's actually separated to 4 things: independence, career, socialization, and then academics.
Very cool. Does anyone work with their Department of Rehabilitation in their state, or vocational rehabilitation? Caitlin?
I've done a little bit. I feel like either I could be doing more to access it, or my counselor could be doing a bit more to help me access it, a little bit of both of that. All they've really done for me is get me a computer to take notes on. So I kind of want to explore that a bit more in the future. And because I know Department of Rehab in California can do a lot to help out for disabled students.
Yeah. So I'll just share a little for those of you who are watching this from home. It's really important to connect with your state's vocational rehabilitation department as early as possible. In high school, there can be vocational training, so like helping you get an internship or a job the first time, and resume building. And then if you state a career goal that requires a 4-year college degree, in most states, your state Department of Rehabilitation will fund college at the state college rate. So either the community college rate or the state college rate. I think you need to be going in state unless your major is something that cannot be done in state. And then, like, I know someone who wanted to do forensic science, and there's only 2 programs in the country, and they were able to get the Department of Rehabilitation to pay for that. The first 2 years they pay the community college rate, which in California is free. We don't pay for community college first 2 years, but then after that they'll pay the state college rate. They pay for assistive technology. So Bennett, for example, is getting a new computer. headset, an iPad, a printer, the whole 9 yards. And then at the end of college, the last years of college, they're supposed to be providing job training and internship placement. So there should be some supports with that. So if you haven't already connected or you don't have a great counselor, it's definitely something to ask about. And I think you can do it at any time. Anyone who has any documented disability can access vocational rehabilitation services. You don't have to have an IEP. You don't have to be at any age. It's any age, any disability, anything that impacts your ability to access college or career, they'll support. So anyway, I just throw that in so that people are aware of what that is. Let's switch gears a little and talk about how has being an epilepsy surgery survivor shaped your college and career path? Roisin, I think you were going to talk about that a bit.
So I know for me, just being constantly in a hospital and stuff showed me that I wanted to be a doctor, and it really pushed me even to like my major. Cause like at first I was like, I want to do something sciencey. I don't know what, but then going through all my epilepsy and surgery stuff, I was like, oh, there's this thing called neurology and then neuroscience. And then I found I could major in that in school. So then I ended up majoring in neuroscience. And I think for like all of us, we've all kind of said like it's inspired us in some way with our career goal, like either wanting to be a social worker or a psychologist or some way just to help and give back to others. So I know for me, it's really wanted me to like give back to others and also give more doctors who can understand what their patients are going through on a personal note, just because like it's easy to be able to memorize a medication and its possible side effects, but then it's different having been on that medication or understanding it from a different point of view than just like a lecture-based setting.
That's great. Anyone else want to share about how being an epilepsy surgery survivor shaped your path?
I can share a little bit. I definitely think it's hard to not go through something like we did and have it shape what you want to do a little bit at least, because I've kind of always known I want to do something where I help people, but the time off on my COVID gap year, I kind of realized, oh, I went through this incredibly challenging time and there are a lot of other people who are going through it. I would love to end up helping kids who were in the same situation I once was.
That's great.
I agree completely with that. And yeah,
Great.
I feel like my whole life, and in high school, my principal said that I would not be able to graduate with an AG diploma.
Which is in California. That's only in California. That's the only diploma that allows you to go straight into a four-year college. Continue.
Yeah. And I did it even through a year and a half of being online. So that's just saying anything's possible.
Yeah. It is very inspiring for me, for all of us to hear your stories too, because you all have been through so much and you're still doing this and pursuing your dreams. It's very cool. What about your ally or go-to person? Who was your champion to get you through high school and into college? Anyone want to speak to that?
I can speak to that. In high school, I had an IEP coming from 8th grade that followed me all throughout high school. So at my public high school, I was matched with a IEP case manager. And at my school, in order to have an IEP, you had to have some sort of assistive class. So I had a study skills class with my case manager, basically all 4 years. So she and I ended up becoming very close, and she was one of my biggest advocates throughout all of high school, and even helping me get into college. She wrote me a letter of rec for college. So I would definitely say keep your IEP 504 connections and make sure your manager is someone who is hands-on of sorts. Like they want you to succeed, but also will let you fail to learn how to be your own advocate. And she wouldn't tell me to email my teachers. She would just make sure I did it, but she would not be constantly reminding me or even doing it for me. Just have someone who teaches you the skills to be successful in college.
That's great. Does anyone else want to talk about a champion or ally on this journey? All right. What would you tell the third grade you in preparation for college? I thought this was a great question that one of our parents in our community threw at me. So Camden, I think you had an answer for that one.
Yes, so I would say if I could go back and tell third grade me anything, it would be to work my butt off throughout my schooling, not just only literally third grade throughout high school, but also getting to college, because in order for you to succeed, you need to, number one, try hard, but also do well, get good grades. And that is one thing that I wish I could go back and redo, is try harder so I could have a better looking grade report throughout school. But now that I'm in college, I try a lot harder, like I would have if I could have gone back and told myself to try harder to have an even better future.
Do you think that not trying hard was like a sense of like that you weren't going to be able to do it, or just that it just wasn't a priority for you at the time?
At the time, it just wasn't a priority for me.
Yeah.
I just wanted to hang out kind of with friends, have fun, and just barely getting by was okay to me at the time. But now I realize that, getting an A is way more important than maybe hanging out with friends a little while longer and just getting like a C and yet again, just barely getting by.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else want to add anything to that? Let's talk about the best advice you got received in your journey, either to or through college. And Roisin, I think you were going to start with that one.
Yeah, the best advice that I got was that I can do everything like all my like peers are doing. I just might have to do it a little differently, because you're around a bunch of people from many different places and stuff. And because just for anyone in the disabled community or who is neurodiverse, it's always like, okay, you might not be able to do this, or you might not be able to achieve the same level as someone else. But in reality, that was the best advice for me, is that I can do everything everyone else around me is doing. It's just I need to do it at like my own pace, or I might need to modify it a little bit. And that's okay. Like, I think learning that it's okay to take your time, because in my opinion, slow and steady wins the race over trying to race and rush and do everything that everyone else is doing.
Did you graduate in 4 years, or did you need an extra year for college?
I graduated in 5 years because I took a year off. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think slowing it down, if that's what's needed, so that you can get through the, get the degree, because ultimately, like you said, slow and steady wins the race, right? Yeah. Does anyone else want to add anything about advice that you received along the way? Good advice, bad advice?
I would say that the best piece of advice that I received was not one shoe size fits all, which seems like a silly analogy, but what that means is like, even though, one thing works for somebody, it doesn't work for you. So even though you need to do it a little bit differently or go on a different path to reach your goal, that is okay. I mean, however you get there, it doesn't matter how you get to the finish line. I mean, as long as you get there.
Yeah, exactly. Hannah, did you want to add anything?
Yeah. So at our end of our year, for our senior year, we had to find a quote that meant to us. And I can't remember the exact saying of it, but it was, it doesn't matter how long it takes as long as you don't stop. And that means a lot to me, because even though I might be slower at things, I'm not a person who gives up and just keeps going until the end.
That's great. Wow, I have goosebumps. You all are amazing. Let's talk a little bit about college life. What has been the hardest thing about college life, and what's been the best thing? Does anyone want to jump in on that one?
I can.
Yeah.
So I would say that one of the best parts about college is the independence, getting away from your parents and being able to have lots of fun without the worry of repercussion. I mean, as long as you're not doing anything illegal or too chaotic. One of the hardest aspects is being away from home, where you have your parents' support, whether that be, helping you out with homework or, giving you a hug or whatever that is. So just being away from them and having to figure out kind of life by yourself, what is definitely one of the hardest aspects of moving out really and being on your own for the first time.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely echo the independence being perhaps the best thing, but then a pitfall of independence I find to be is transportation because I go to school in kind of a more of a suburby college town, so like there's like a train station that gets into LA, but aside from that, it's like walking everywhere is not the biggest adversity, but it's like getting to Target is kind of like 2 miles, not really walkable. So like having to get an Uber, which can be expensive. So I would say finding a consistent mode of transportation's been my one of my toughest challenges I'm still figuring out.
Yeah. And you won't drive either, right?
I won't drive now.
I think in California, they don't allow people with hemianopia with a visual impairment to drive. So,
Yeah, I'm not planning on it. I'm trying to figure out how to kind of make an accommodation because they told me if I needed a car, I could have one. I'm trying to see if I could have a proxy driver, make it that way, make one of my friends be able to get a car on campus. So,
that's a great idea.
yeah, I'm going to work on that this summer.
Anyone else want to add about what's hard about college life and what's good about it?
I would say for me, also just like the hardest thing about college life was learning how to balance again with that independence, what you can do and what you can't. Because when you go to college, you're gonna be around a lot of people with very different lifestyles, different cultures, and be exposed to a lot of things that when you're sick might not always be like the best option for a sick person and or just not the healthiest. So I think learning to say no and being like, yeah, maybe a normal, like quote unquote normal 20-year-old can be doing these things or out partying all the time. Like, not that it's a bad thing. Like, you can definitely go and do that if you want, but also learning to say no with your independence that, okay, this might not be the best for me just because I do have this added layer of health issues that I do need to take care of. And to not feel peer pressure to do stuff just because everyone around you might be doing something.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time in our family talking about with Bennett about we already took out half his brain to stop his seizures. And if he has seizures recur, we don't have another half to take out. And so that concern about drugs and alcohol, it's a very present on all college campuses. I don't think there's any college campus that doesn't have that. So you're right. You have to really be making that decision yourself about, is this what I want to be doing? And what are the risks to me? And that can be really hard. You know, you're thrown into a lot of independence and having to make that choice on your own.
Can I speak a little to that, Audrey? I think it's like as a freshman, it's kind of like you get thrown in there. Everyone tells you all well throughout high school. It's like, oh, college is a nonstop party. I would say like it's very much like you do however much you want. I found to be like peer pressure is definitely not a myth, but like it's definitely as long as you have a good group of friends. If you say no, no one's gonna be like, oh no, you have to chug this beer. It's like very much like I found it to be whatever you're comfortable with. Most people will reciprocate with like you don't have to go out 3 nights a weekend. You can maybe compromise, do 1 or 2 and still have that social aspect of college that everybody wants to be a part of.
Yeah, that's true. Hannah, did you have something you want to add about the best part of your college experience so far or the hardest?
To be honest, I would say the best part about college is being able to get the experience, but also able to do it. The hardest part, I would say, is just or what we mostly feared about was how much I could be able to do it independently on my own and stuff.
Are there specific things you struggle with your independence? Is it like, you know, carrying things, preparing meals? Like, is there a specific thing that is challenging for you or just in general?
Well, so it's probably just a little bit in general, but the main hard part was generally just changing the sheets because so I had it's called a quick zip, so it's like a zipper thing and it connects. However, I've learned that the mattresses here are very bad, so I always get stuck into the frame. So I need to ask help a little bit during the second semester. It worked well the first semester, but mostly other than that.
Yeah. For those of you that had a hemispherectomy, I'm assuming all of you have some form of hemiplegia. One arm isn't as functional, right? So that can be those motor challenges. And then, you know, even if it's you know, like you've had a seizure the day before, that can affect your whole next day, not even just going to classes, but like, how do you go eat your meals? How do you deal with your laundry? Like your whole life kind of stops, right? For that next day, maybe. So that can have a big impact as well. Are there any last thoughts you'd like to share? And again, this is parents and teens who are looking at college will be watching this. Are there any parting thoughts you'd like to share to inspire our viewers?
I don't know if I have any like words of wisdom, but I would like to let whoever's watching this know, like, I'm a resource. I'm currently going through it. If you have any questions ever, I don't know how like to give my information out. I think that'd be more on your end, Audrey.
Yep. Why don't I have anyone who would like to reach out to any of these young adults who offers can contact me, and I will just double check that they're still willing when that request comes through, because this video might be up on our YouTube channel for years. So 10 years from now, you might say, yeah, not so much. But for now, it's a very generous offer. Thank you, Caitlin. Anyone else? Parting thoughts, words of wisdom?
I would say that even though having seizures is a disability, or having half your brain taken out can really take a toll on your life, it's really important not to give up, because you can realistically achieve anything that you set your mind to.
Well said. Well said. I think we need to end on that note. That was phenomenal. I'm really grateful for all of you for being here today. Thank you so much for your wisdom, for your passion, for your time. You're an inspiring bunch. And I know that people are really going to enjoy watching this webinar. So thank you so much. And hopefully we'll have you back for a future panel.